So now I'm going to pass the mic to Ashley. She's going to talk a little bit more about the Maryland Poor People's Campaign and the United Workers' relationship to that campaign.
All right, give it up for Mike, because that's a lot of history to recap, right? 20 years. My name's Ashley Hufnagel. I'm the executive director of United Workers. Some of you know me. We go way back. Some of you, I'm seeing some new faces. But my history with organizing is really is because of United Workers. I'm part of this movement because of United Workers. I got involved through the Living Wages campaign at Camden Yards. Was a leadership organizer with United Workers from 2006 to 2012. Saw that victory, part of the Human Rights Zone campaign. And then, and it was really through that, through the United Workers that I got connected to a national network of grassroots organizations and human rights organizations, and poor people's organizations, and welfare rights organizations, and homeless organizations from across the country that were being brought together by an organization called the Poverty Initiative, which is now called the Cairo Center. And some of you might be familiar with the Cairo Center. And so I owe so much to United Workers, because this movement is something that I have, along with many here, have committed my life to. And so I'm really indebted to this organization that I feel like has saved me, and I think probably has saved a lot of people, because we live in a really cruel world. And it means a lot to be connected with other leaders, inspiring leaders, so many of the leaders that Mike talked about. So I want to talk a little bit about the Poor People's Campaign, and want to acknowledge, the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, is a rebirth of Dr. King's 1968 Poor People's Campaign. So 50 years ago, at the end of his life, Dr. King made this transition from civil rights to human rights, and began talking about, we can't, it's more than just civil rights. We have to address the whole entire system that is producing a whole entire system in which racism is used to exploit people, to justify people's exploitation and oppression, to divide people, to do all this. We need to connect it to poverty. We need to connect it to militarism. We need to do all that. So that's what Dr. King was talking about. Of course, the powers that be didn't like that very much. They didn't like him talking about trying to unite the bottom. And so, unfortunately, Dr. King was assassinated before he could see the Poor People's Campaign fully realized. But it went on, and it went on because of the leadership of women in this photo. So this is a photo of leaders from the Welfare Rights Organization leading the Mother's Day March in 1968 that kind of launched the Poor People's Campaign. And it was because of organizers, that's Beulah Sanders and some other welfare rights leaders in this photo, that they were able to continue that movement. So maybe we'll go to the next slide. I think some of you come from the Poor People's Campaign. Some of you are familiar because you're part of the United Workers, but just in case, this new campaign, this new Poor People's Campaign, is called the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, is bringing poor people and other moral agents together, same like 1968, across these lines of division, in order to demand all of our human rights, to connect these issues and really say, this lie, this idea that there's not enough to go around is a lie. There's enough to go around. It's just that it's being hoarded by some people at the top, a very small group of people at the top. We know there's enough to go around to ensure that we all have our basic needs met, that we're treated with respect and dignity. And so that's what this campaign is about. Go to the next slide. But it's not a reenactment. This isn't like, Civil War reenactment. So people like dress up and they pretend like to reenact something that happened 50 years ago. No, actually, it comes out of a long history. So those organizers that were in 1968 and continue to organize and passed on that knowledge and on how to organize. And so this current campaign really comes out of 50 years or more of the poor organizing the poor. But if we just look at some markers of how this campaign got together, just very quickly. So as I was saying, the Cairo Center, with Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris, she's the co-chair, the national co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign. Her organization brought people together and 4 years before the Poor People's Campaign launched and said, hey, we're always talking about 1968 Poor People's Campaign as inspiring model. The 50th anniversary is coming up. Maybe we should relaunch this thing. What do y'all think? And people were like, yeah, let's do this. We're going to do this. And so this is just something. So, for instance, United Workers went down with a delegation with the Cairo Center to North Carolina because at the time, Bishop Barber, who some of you all know, who's the other co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, he was leading a righteous movement in North Carolina called the Moral Mondays movement. And they had this photo, we were there, the largest march in the South. I don't know, maybe 20th century or maybe history, I don't know, but they said it was big. It looks big. That looks big. Doesn't that look big? It looks really big. Anyway, so we went down there, keep on going. And then this is that event I was saying where the Poverty Initiative, the Cairo Center gathered 150 leaders together to say, hey, what do we think about relaunching this thing? Here's Bishop Barber right there. He was giving the benediction at the ceremony there. And Sergio Espana, United Workers leader, speaking at that event. So if you go to the next slide. And then, we had to do the groundwork. We couldn't just be like, oh, launch this thing. Even though we had a great network and a lot of connections, we still wanted to talk to lots of different people. So organizers from different parts of the country went on different tours to connect with grassroots organizers in other parts of the country. So it was an incredible exchange. This was the Gulf Coast tour. Then we went to Selma, Alabama, and the next one for the 50th anniversary of a Bloody Sunday. So that's again us with Bishop Barber there at the top. I'm going. There was a gathering, a national gathering in this very room prior to the launch to talk about bringing things together. And keep on going. And then it was officially launched in December of 2017 with the same day that the original was launched. And we had the 40 days of action. And United Workers has been a part of the Maryland Poor People's Campaign ever since that time. What's the next? Okay. And then even this past June, we know, there was a June 18th mass poor people's and low wage workers moral march on Washington and to the man, I had it back in the day, and now it's gone, and now I can't remember. It's way too long. Anyway, so we mobilized for this. We had about 20 members of the organization that committed to being mobilization captains. That means they were like, I'm committing to turning out family, friends. And so we turned out. We saw the photo before that when Mike was talking, and that was us on the day of that kind of group photo. That was us, the people that were leaving on the bus. If you could just go back to that photo, thanks. Before, I just want to see if there's anyone in the room though, because we've got some mobilization captains that are here in this room, and we've got some people that went to June 18th in DC, and maybe also on Zoom. So in the room, so maybe I'll take a couple of people in the room, and then maybe if there's some people on Zoom that want to talk about what that was like, organizing and mobilizing for that. I see Benny. Do you mind handing that mic to Benny? I think you gotta touch that, yeah.
Good evening. Glad to see everyone here. That was an experience because we met a lot of people, involved.
Benny, do you mind holding the mic more closer? Yeah, is it on? Sorry. I just want to make sure the people on Zoom can hear you too.
Anyway, starting all over again. Good evening. Glad to see everyone here. And like I said before, it was an experience when we went to the Capitol. We went down on the buses. We got to know each other on the bus. But when we got to the Capitol, we got to meet other organizations that was involved in the same thing in which we were involved in. And there was a lot of feedback from many of the groups. And I was happy. Of course, I went to sleep, but I went to sleep because, you know, like at the time when that was in March, I was 71 then. Okay. And sometimes I get tired, but I never got tired of working with this organization because this organization started, like I said, 20 years ago. And I always go back to one particular thing that stays on my heart. It's when we went to Florida and other places to protest about tomatoes, where they was making them workers, you know, pick tomatoes, and they was only getting 10 cents for a bushel of tomatoes. And the big companies was getting 90% of what they were making. So I was involved. And I always remember that. I was involved with the stadium. I was one of the workers at the stadium. And I also was on the union group where we fought for better wages because we got a raise from $7 to $11.35. And a lot of other people didn't want to join because somehow manager has slipped people in to tell the pickers don't join the union because they're gonna take money from them and things like that. So they didn't join us. But a lot of them lost their jobs to people that's coming in with lower wages. But that's a new chapter. Okay. So Todd asked me to sing a song, but excuse me. I'm moving with another cold. You know, I'm not singing. So I ain't finished. I'll probably sing it later on, but not right now. Okay.
Thanks, Benny. Thanks, Benny. I wonder if there's someone possibly you want to say something about June 18th?
Hello, how's everybody doing? My name is Carl Sanders, it's with the United Workers. I think I started United Workers about 2014. First of all, I want to say that I think United Workers got a lot of strength after they got out and started signing petitions for the 2020 campaign. I think that brought a lot of strength, a lot of unity. At that time, they recruited even more people from the street, which brought us all here. And I think that's what really helped out a lot. I did go to DC. I think in DC is a number of speakers from around Washington that actually spoke about poor people's campaign, about the marches that we were holding, that they brought a lot of unity to all of us. For some reason, felt as though working together has brought a lot more strength, a lot more unity. And we're gaining even more strength and more unity as we go along now. I want to thank you. Thank each and every one of you.
We're all really appreciative. I wonder if there's someone on Zoom who wants to share. Maybe we can X out of this presentation so we can see. Is there anyone on Zoom that participated in the June 18th or that's been involved in the Maryland Poor People's Campaign that wants to share their experience?
Hey, this is Janet from Allegheny County in Cumberland,
At the bottom, yeah.
and I just wanted to
Hands up, anyone wanna share? See Brian there. Brian came with us.
Yeah, Janet was saying something. I'll follow along after her.
in Allegheny County. This is Janet, and I just wanted to let people know that we had a watch party here in Cumberland, and it wasn't greatly attended, but we had a great group, and I think we were hugely inspired, and I think it really helped us to grow the movement here in Cumberland. And we've been really fortunate to have Todd and Michael spearheading efforts to grow the movement in Western Maryland, and that watch party was an amazing event.
That's great, Janet. Yeah, no, and it's true. I mean, sometimes people make a lot of, talk a lot about numbers, but really it's the quality of the people that are in the room and the organizing you're doing with that. So that's really cool to hear.
Anyway, yeah, I went down for June 18th, and I just, the thing that sort of sticks with me about it was just the breadth of people that were there. I mean, there were like communists, there were social democrats, there were anarchists, there were gay and queer people, there were peace activists. There was just this whole, and not to mention, of course, like, Black, white, Asian, Latino, whatever. All of those people came together for that one event, and everyone was like, trading back and forth and talking and getting to know each other. And it was just really a great feeling on that event. And that's kind of what I carried away from it. Just, there was so many people in so many different ways that people had come into this movement. And so that really gave me a lot of hope for the whole Poor People's Campaign idea. And so I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Brian. All right, we're gonna go back to the slideshow presentation. Thanks everyone for sharing those reflections on June 18th. I think you go to share screen, and then yeah, but then you want to put that, yeah, and then I don't know what happened with the presentation, but no, don't that. I need that. You know what? We don't need it. We don't need it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Don't just stay there. Stay there. Stay. Wait. Don't play it just yet. Okay. Ooh, okay. This is like a complicated like setup, y'all. Like we're learning as we lead here with this tech stuff. Yeah, so before I do want to share this because this is really great. But before I do, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Poor People's Campaign. In that, I said what it is, but sometimes it's a little weird. Like, what is it exactly? Like, what is this thing? It's so broad, as Brian was saying. Like, everyone's part of it. Like, it's this big, and it really is this big umbrella. It's a huge umbrella with all these people, Father Ty said, everybody in, nobody out, right? It brings all these people together. At the same time, that could be a little complicated sometimes, right? How do you organize something that's so like amorphous? And Bishop Barber, he says, the Poor People's Campaign, it's an organism, not an organization, right? And it's very easy to get confused, right? And want to make it an organization and stuff like that, but it's an organism. It's this flexible thing. It brings all these people together. But it's an organism that brings in other organizations. And a key, and we really feel like a key, I'll just say, but between, organizing with United Workers and then coming back as the executive director, I did this little thing along the way where I went back to school and I did my dissertation on the Poor People's Campaign, and I traveled around the country and I talked to over 40 organizers. I interviewed them in 27 different states, talked to them like, what's this looking like for you all? What's this whole thing? And what I really found is the states that were the strongest states were anchored by one or ideally more organizations of the poor, base building organizations whose membership is made up of people who are impacted by these issues. So that's one of the things that we see is the relationship between the organization and the campaign, and that it's a symbiotic relationship, right? Growing the organization is important. Growing organizations of the poor, base building organizations of the poor, like United Workers, like Vermont Workers Center, like Unión de Vecinos, like MILPA, like Put People First Pennsylvania. Growing organizations like that is really important to building the Poor People's Campaign. At the same time, building the Poor People's Campaign can help us build organizations of the poor. Our participation in the Poor People's Campaign deepens our commitment to this larger movement. That strengthens us too. So it's this back and forth. It's very important. And I wanted to show just an example of this. And this is just last Thursday, because you know how National does, they give you a call like 2 days before, and they're like, hey, we're doing this thing. You think someone could speak at it? And I was like, sure, we got you. And Nadia spoke at this event. And I just want to share her testimony, because it was like there was lots of speakers there and really powerful speakers, but her testimony was just so clear and really spoke to why we need this movement. And so we're gonna play this video of Nadia. If you can just go to the little play button right above the bottom.
Good morning. My name is Nadia Patterson. I am a single working mom living in Baltimore. Night after night, as I put my child to sleep, I stay up wondering, how am I going to be able to pay my next month-to-month rent? How am I going to be able to keep my lights on? How am I going to be able to keep food on the table? What if she runs out of her asthma pump, which is the medicine that she takes daily? How am I going to be able to help with that? During the pandemic, the child tax credit helped me and my child. We were at risk for being homeless. The landlord had basically died and the house had been sold, so we had to rush and move. The child tax credit saved us, was able to provide a stable living arrangement and also able to help me out with utility bills. But now that the child tax credit is over, I'm still having sleepless nights. Imagine waking up to a sheriff knocking on your door, telling you to get what you have and leave. My child asking me questions while tears are running down her face. Living in a motel, trying to find ways to pay night from night. That's a reality that I live every night. But A while ago, I used to be ashamed of my story. But through the organization that I'm with, United Workers,
That's right.
I realized that I was not alone.
That's right. That's right.
We then paired with the Poor People's Campaign,
That's right.
which is focused on affordable housing, wages, affordable health care, and to put an end to poverty. We are asking those in Washington, when will affordable housing, affordable health care, affordable child care, and wages be affordable for us?
That's right.
There are 140 million low-income poor people in the United States, which is the richest country in the world. Now, it's time to vote. No more cries. No more stories of our families being divided. We have to stand, and we need to stand now. Thank you so much.
Say your name again so everybody knows.
I'm sorry.
Y'all are muted.
Good.
At first, I was nervous, because like Ashley stated before, it was like, you have to do this, you know, it wasn't like I had to do it, but it was a calling, and of course, I'm always nervous when it comes to public speaking. But, I just let the people that supported me, like my United Workers fam, just guide me, and it was a breathtaking experience. And I also realized, again, like I stated in the presentation, that I know that I'm not alone. So the power of a village, it definitely carries on. So again, it was an experience, and just seeing it from, you know, from looking at it instead of being up there, it's like, wow, I actually did it. So I'm proud to be a part of the United Workers, and also to participate with the Poor People's Campaign. I'm just happy, so thank you.